Welcome to Mind What Matters, the podcast where we look at data security with just a little bit of the side of fun. Hey, cybersecurity is a serious topic, but we want to look at what matters truly. My name is Samuel Hill. I lead product marketing here at Mind, and I'm joined by Landon Brown, the field CTO. Landon, man, it's so good to see you. I know we've had a lot of travel, a lot of things happening in our world. You've been pretty busy, but Landon, what's going on, man?
Not a lot, Sam. It has been certainly busy. Just as a company, you look at our just unique stage of growth. I think that's common between companies of our size. We've also had family events. The world's been busy. We've had a lot of travel and events lately. So I feel like it's been nonstop action since January 1st hit. And I feel like it's just going to probably continue that way throughout the rest of the year.
You know, it's like that movie, right? You see the trailer for the movie and you're like, oh, this is going to be good. Sometimes, they give away the entirety of the plot of the movie in the trailer. You're like, well, I don't need to see the movie now because the trailer told me everything that I'm going to need to know about this story. But other times you think this is going to be a great action movie. I'm excited to see it. And then it turns out to be a period drama that has very little action in it at all. But nope, this year has absolutely delivered all of the action, the nonstop thrills, planes, trains, automobiles, some car chases. We won't say who was involved in that, but this is what it is.
And I think even everything all the way down to the weather has been sporadic and chaotic at times, right? Especially where you're at, Sam, where I'm pretty sure you had 7 inches of snow and a moose in your front yard. And then the next day, completely sunny and the snow's gone.
Yeah, currently almost 80 degrees here in Montana, but we are expecting snow by the end of the week. So don't worry about that. Yeah, just make up your mind. It's going to be what
That's
it
awesome.
Is. Well, hey, Landon, let's kick it off officially. So, hey, bud, what is on your mind?
Yeah, it's been a busy, continuing the trend. It's been really busy just personally. We've moved houses recently, all within Idaho, not too far apart, but certainly felt the impact of just the world being more connected than it's ever been, both with the flow of information and the flow of the economy and the world economy and just geopolitics in general. Just, moving into our house, closing on our house was right at the start of some of the geopolitics in the Middle East. And we certainly felt that with the rates in the US and oil prices and all of the things. And we have coworkers in Tel Aviv. We have coworkers all around the world. And so really just, I think, for me, top of mind is just how, I think fragile is the wrong word, but something akin to the fragility and also the interconnectedness of just everything in the world right now, how things on the other side of the world have a direct and noticeable, tangible impact on us on the other side of the world. Definitely felt that, and we're getting moved in and settled, and with the resolution of that chaos of moving, I'm sure something else will come up, and we'll move into another fun project for the family. But definitely been a busy start to the year, both work-wise and personal-wise for the Brown family. How about yourself, Sam?
Well, congratulations on closing and then now getting moved into the new place. I'm hoping it'll be a great fit for the whole family and lots of space and lots of things for the facilitation of the growth as you guys continue to, your kids get bigger. That's one thing. They never stop growing. They always want more groceries. They continue to get new clothes because they get bigger, and hopefully it'll be all really great for you.
Yeah, thank you.
But what's on my mind is obviously getting into the summer time, all the activities and all the things that are coming up. And do you have this issue too in your family where the family calendar, sometimes there are crossed wires between, my wife and I are the main planners of things. My wife is the main planner of things. Let's be truly honest. Sometimes the wires get crossed. So having those conversations up front and early of, hey, this is what I know. Here are the big blocks. I know I have this thing going on, this thing going on. You have this thing, you have this thing. We have these things as a family. Getting all of the dates lined up in the calendar. Such an important and underrated conversation to have as a family.
Samuel, your kids are, my oldest is 10. How old is your oldest, Samuel?
Yeah, she's 12.
Okay, so you have 2 years head start on us. We just established a family calendar, and I hate to say this on a podcast that people will hear, but we had to start coordinating and planning our family calendar around what kids are grounded and when. And when you have 5, it's really important that the kids learn the lesson from start to finish. And if there's wiggle room in that or there's gray area, they don't learn the lesson. And we want them to learn the lesson and be better people so that we don't have to ground them ever again for the same thing. We have to coordinate strike calendars calendars and family calendars and who's grounded and who's not, what are they grounded for, and
Yep.
add notes for why so we can reinforce it at the end and the start. And and that was actually the genesis for why our family calendar started. And now it's finally blended into, hey, what do you want to do this weekend? And what am
Right.
I doing next weekend? And
Right.
we're getting more organized as a family, which the benefit is we're getting better as a family, but I feel like sometimes we're getting better a little too late.
Yeah. Well, hopefully your kids are getting grounded for new reasons. That's obviously the goal of parenting,
Yeah.
right? Is something
Yeah.
new that has come up. But if you haven't, honestly, we've tried a lot of different family calendars. None of them released it currently. Right now, it's a whiteboard on the pantry door,
Oh,
and we
okay.
just kind of keep it week to week. And my wife will ask, "Hey, what's going on with this thing?" I'm like, "It's on the calendar." Oh, I don't look at that. Okay, that's the entire point of the family calendar, is that we're both able to look at it and react and do that. So we're still figuring it out as well. Not that we have a perfect system here, but I'm going to add the who is facing which consequence at what time and for how long. That's a good call.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's awesome. Okay, hey, let's dive into a lot of things happening in our world as we mind the headlines. All right, first up today, Landon. Obviously, I think there's a lot happening around Claude Mythos, the new model release from Anthropic. Now, I use Claude almost exclusively now. I mean, it has really burst onto the scene as one of the more popular LLMs, co-working tools. Maybe Claude Code, Claude Cowork, Claude Chat, all the things that it can do. It's hyper powerful. I mean, I probably have it connected to almost every part of my daily workflow nowadays. And we have other models that we use. I use Gemini pretty regularly. I use the Chat GPT models pretty regularly. But Claude has exploded, and their new model, Mythos, is coming out. But wait. We can't release it yet because it is too dangerous. It has too many latent abilities to, chain 0-day exploits and become incredibly disruptive. So they decided to hold on to it a little bit. Landon, tell us a little bit about what you know around here and what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's timely that this not release of this model is coming after the accidental public release of their IP. Then that was mentioned. Actually, the discovery of Mythos was mentioned in the leak of IP. So it could all be just a massive marketing scheme, and I know a lot of people are speculating that. And hey, it's worked phenomenally. I think the one thing that's unquestionable is Anthropic has really taken the lead in this democratization and this integration and architecturalization, if you will, of agents, right? Where
Mhm.
we saw the community really probably aid this more than the other models, but it was really just because of the way Claude was distributed and Claude Code was distributed, and the ability to just organize agents to do what we want and make that easy. We saw Claude Code, we saw Open Claude, these other things that really said, hey, like, we're not building a new model, we're just building the architecture for how you organize them
Mhm.
together, right? And so we really saw the explosion of that. I think that aside from the lead that I think Anthropic has really gotten in kind of the agentic space and like the everyday use agentic space, like Mythos does, whether it's marketing or not, does represent kind of a strategic shift for the industry in terms of like what should we be prepared for and what is the
Mhm.
power of these models as they are coming down the line. I have zero doubt in my mind that whether Mythos is the next groundbreaking model that's going to break every single network and piece of infrastructure in the world, or whether it's not, it will be more powerful than what we have today. And that's a
Sure.
noticeable improvement in terms of what attackers can use and what they can orchestrate and what defenders have to, one, respond to, and I think equally, hopefully, how they can orchestrate as well.
Well, I wonder too. I mean, obviously, every time Apple releases a new iPhone or a new device, their developer ecosystem has really early access to the specs, to the
Hmm.
SDKs, and to the build as builts and all the things, so that the ecosystem can react and be ready for its release as well. So I wonder if we're going to be moving into a model of a similar type in the cybersecurity space, where a new powerful model will be released by whichever AI model, AI trainer company out there that you want to put the flavor of, and then the industry might get some heads up and be able to say, all right, you might want to adjust. Here's the SDKs. Here's the APIs. Here's the things that would be unique and how we've trained it that present these kind of risks. And you might want to react to them.
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of speculation in terms of like how the U.S. government is doing this today. If you look in the past, I mean, it is irrefutable that the majority of tech companies have hidden kind of relationships with the US government in terms of keeping vulnerabilities either exposed or
Sure.
patching them early, not communicating things with the public for the sake of national security and ongoing operations. I don't think this is going to be any different. And I think we're going to see the same things where there's going to be offshoots or capabilities or early releases of models that are available to, say, the NSA or CIA or DIA or Cyber Command or
Hmm.
kind of these agencies that are really taking advantage of next gen innovation and cyber operations and the cyber operations space. I think that's going to continue, right? It doesn't shock me, and it certainly doesn't shock me, especially when you look at, trying to keeping politics aside, just the architecture of the current administration and involving these larger tech corporations side by side into
Hmm.
the military, like being able to actually commission members of these technical teams in these corporate organizations into the military to integrate those cyber capabilities and other military capabilities into our kind of national suite of cyber tools. So it doesn't surprise me, and it wouldn't surprise me going forward if that it kind of stays the standard model for how the U.S. operates. I would say that the publicity for this is really making it seem bigger.
Hmm.
And I would say it's fair to say that the propensity for the impact that this could bring also equally isn't shocking for why they're maybe coordinating with the U.S. government prior, but also wouldn't be shocking about because of the potential impact that it could make in the space as well.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I think politics aside, as an American, as somebody that has grown up and lived and makes my living in the West, I think it probably is generally good that the U.S. leads in the AI race. That we have, some thought leadership and an ability to keep ahead, so that those commissioned to defend us in the cyber command and also in the physical side of the warfare world have every advantage possible. I think that's generally good. I hope that's pretty middle of the road as a statement to make. But at the end of the day, too, it does
Mhm.
open up a lot of new ways that attackers and bad guys can reach organizations. I mean, that's the thing, right? AI is going to find 0 days that have never possibly been found before just because they're able to, brute force either logic or look at things from different angles and lenses, and
Mhm.
random stuff is going to be found. So it almost seems like these releases can give advantage to the bad guys until the good guys catch up.
I think that's it's been the case with technology and it'll continue to be the case with technology. And I think this does accelerate it. And we're seeing that. We're seeing
Hmm.
that attackers are becoming more efficient, right? We look at the other headline that you and I were kind of digesting earlier, Samuel, was the threat actor that used Claude Code and ChatGPT to breach multiple Mexican government agencies and generated 75% of his kind of attack portfolio, with those kind of AI agents. And I think it combines everything we've talked about before is that what it's accelerating the efficiency of attackers, but it's also the democratization that agents have given attackers. Now,
Hmm.
excuse me, one of the things that we do see is that, at least in this case, they're still pretty advanced attackers, right? There's
Hmm.
still TTPs, there's still methodologies, there's still kind of technical components that go into doing kind of these offensive operations that can't yet just be done by any Joe Schmo on the street. It
Right.
is getting closer to that, but we are seeing, at least at the minimum, advanced attackers become wildly more efficient. And I think the big question that I have, and hopefully I think something we'll probably talk about today, Sam, is are defenders going to be able to keep up with that pace, or are they going to get left in the dust?
Well, I think there was something interesting I heard a security leader talk about was, it might get bad for a little while as AI really fuels novel
Mhm.
attacks, but eventually it's like the full cavalry will arrive. All of the force of AI defense techniques will eventually be brought to bear as the market catches up and is able to deliver service for
Mhm.
the defense of organizations and nations and all that kind of stuff. So I hope that will be the case. But you're right, absolutely. Necessity is the mother of invention, and criminal enterprises are incredibly inventive, and usually leave the defenders having to react to some novel, new, innovative thing, which eventually then does spur on innovations in defense technology and all that kind of stuff as well. So it is a cyclical thing. I don't know if we ever break that cycle, to be honest.
I couldn't agree more. I don't think we break that cycle. I think this time more than ever, it reminds me very much of, and maybe this is an ignorant statement to make, and so you can call me on that, individually, is it reminds me of the time of kind of like the atom bomb rush that we
Mm,
had in the 1940s, and it at least like what the world is making it seem to be makes it seem like
yeah.
this,
Yeah.
where there's this incredible pressure for the capitalist world to suppress the molasses of bureaucracy
Mm,
that's halting innovation. And I look across the major conflicts we've had just as a country in our short time of being alive as the
right.
great experiment. When you look across the inventions in the 40s in air power, right? How the US had to innovate and come out on top in air power, how in the Vietnam era and the Cold War, we had to innovate and come up with ballistic missile and rocket technology and precision guided munitions to combat a potential invasion of Russia through
Hmm.
Europe. And all of the rockets and munitions we built specifically for that within 3 to 5 years of research development to field testing to deployment. And then we saw a massive slowdown in innovation. I think, we saw some examples like the F-35. We saw a few
Hmm.
other examples of combat, drone aircraft and these other things that are taking a long time to innovate. And it makes me think that we're going to get in this space very soon, but we're not going to have a choice. We're going to have to really suppress again that molasses pace of bureaucracy
Hmm.
that exists in just natural capitalism and defense, and really start pushing towards innovation, especially if attackers are getting more and more efficient. And I think I guess one of the questions I have, and I don't know if you agree with
Yeah.
this, Samuel, is it makes me see a future where the future of cyber defense is open source, where
Mm,
that's the only place where innovation can thrive. And now that's a threat to a lot of cyber
right.
defense companies, and there's a conflict there again, that competition with capitalism. But I guess I would say I see a world where the future is more open source, and I wonder how the world is going to adjust to that.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought line to go down because if it's open source, then that means it's open, right? By default. So every attacker would know every in and out of the open source technologies that would be used in defense. And but you're right, it's one thing to know here are the components that they might be using, but the speed and velocity at which they can either apply them, innovate on them, infer, train, adjust, all the things might make it so much better. Because I agree, like when you're in a battle, which I mean, they've said cybersecurity is a war for a long, long time. Obviously, we have
Mm,
entire parts of our military focused on cyber threat, cyber defense, cyber warfare, as they
mm,
should. And hopefully the best in the world. Like that's my hope. But at
right.
the end of the day, right? In a war, you really care about what works. That's what you care about, like whether how it was purchased, how it was made. Like, does it work? At the end of the day, the field test is the most important, crucial thing. And I think in cybersecurity, we've maybe gotten wrapped around the axle around frameworks and models and structure and governance and rules and things which are you know important, generally important. But at the end of the day, does it work? Is it
Mm,
helpful to the people on the front lines? Is it helpful to your SOC analyst? Is it helpful
mm,
to your security leader looking to expand the effort or fight a specific battle? Or is it helpful to, an engineer that's trying to put a system together that's actually going to keep the company safe? To me, those are the questions I think that the
mm,
bureaucracy and the molasses are preventing us from being able to answer
right.
effectively. Is that simple metric? Does it work?
Right. And I think this is where modularity and extensibility really become valuable tools for defenders, is this ability to be agile and
Yeah.
adapt to the industry as it evolves. If we can give that to the defenders, I think it makes sense. If I look back to my military days, I
Hmm.
remember I had friends that stayed in the military past me that were in the military in the field during the time of the Ukraine war.
Hmm.
And they were doing exercises, home turf here in the United States, and they were trying to train these scenarios where if I turn my radio on, enemy artillery sees me because they can see
The RF
that
spectrum
radio
is pretty
signal. They call
visible.
it,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
they see
Yep.
that, they call it direction finding. You get
Yep.
DF'd is what we
Yep.
call it in the military. And what Marines and soldiers were coming up with to combat this is putting tinfoil on that side of their antenna, right? And it was somewhat effective in some combat situations. And we're starting like that level of give the defenders the tools to succeed. We're seeing this in the Defense Department for actual combat operations today, is like give the tools back to the warfighter for the
Hmm.
warfighter to innovate. And I think we're going to have to see the same when it comes to AI in the cyber warfare realm of like, can we build systems and architectures that maybe aren't pre-built, but can be put together quickly to secure a network and to defend this and to look for this type of attack and to defend against this TTP on
Yeah.
demand, ready to go on tap, right? And I think that's really going to be the difference in the future of cyber defense operations is that orchestration is, I think the cyber defense operators are going to be really, really good on demand orchestrators rather than waiting for logs to generate and waiting for alerts. And it's going to be a blend of hunt forward operations and
Hmm.
orchestrators, I think, in the future.
Yeah, it's a fascinating world to think about because, that gives the real advantage in the market. I think from a cybersecurity marketing perspective, the companies that can be most agile to solve problems effectively and quickly, I think are going to be well positioned going into the future. And honestly, you think of some of the big, massive players in the cybersecurity space, the companies that we all know and respect and probably have purchased and used their tools, those platform plays may not be the route to the future, especially in a fragmented atomic. I use the word atomic in an isolated, contained thing, not like the nuclear option, but more of these threats and tactics are going to be specific, personal, and so your response and your defense is going to have to also be of the same kind.
Yeah, and I think we think about mind-boggling stats,
Yeah.
Samuel. Like one of the things I shared earlier today was that there's more data created in the last 2 years than there has been in the entirety of mankind's history ever. Right, which is just a wild stat. And when you think about this ability for attackers to have a middle ground between modularity and tools being autonomous, right? Those are kind of like things that we oftentimes see on opposite sides of the spectrum. As modularity is I have to build it and put together, and autonomy is it does it all by itself. I think the future of good cybersecurity tools and good even platforms, to your point, are
Hmm.
going to be things that play really well in the middle, that allow people to build and
Yeah.
orchestrate, but allow people to rely on autonomy at the same time. And I think that's really going to be the future of cybersecurity solutions that are worth purchasing in the next 5 to 10 years,
Yeah,
probably.
extensibility on steroids, to be honest. I mean, being able to
Mhm.
communicate intra-platform rapidly, effectively, without breakage. That's going to be a
Right.
very critical path. Completely agree. Yeah. Hey, my mind-boggling stat is in honor of the Artemis mission, which recently returned from its trip around the moon. Pretty cool to see humans again advancing beyond Earth's orbit to another celestial body, one that orbits our planet here. But if you folded a piece of paper 42 times, 42, just 42 times, later, that's all you got to do. Fold a piece of paper 42 times, it would reach past the moon. And I was like, wait a minute, nope, that can't be true. That cannot be true. But so the math checks out. I'm no mathematician by any stretch of the imagination. And in fact, if you knew me well, you would actually realize how funny it is that I'm talking about a math equation. But that's a story for another time. But 42, obviously, the physical improbability, Mythbusters did test this. They could not physically get a piece of paper to fold 40 times. The secret is every fold doubles the volume. So, you fold it in half once. Now you have two, fold it again. Now you have four, eight,
Mhm.
and
Right.
logarithmically up from there. Eventually, you get over 400,000 kilometers, which is just past Moon's orbit. So, in honor of Artemis, maybe go fold a piece of paper a couple times. See how many you can get.
Samuel, I feel like this is an opportunity to have Claude write a new book for you that's for founders and tech founders called The Rule of Folding 42 or something that teaches them how to 42 times their business. And maybe it's time for a witty LinkedIn post at the same time.
You've just started my new LinkedIn series. What I learned folding paper 42 times. Comment AI to get my playbook.
That's right.
So good. Well, Landon, hey, as we wrap up today's episode, this has been a fascinating conversation. But let's focus on what matters now. And for me, I think, mythos, however you say it, I respect the marketing hustle, right? You mentioned it. Well, their IP got leaked, and now all of a sudden this new model is so powerful, we can't release it. And it's such a good marketing strategy. OpenAI is copying it with their new model, saying, "Hey, we gotta, let's get it tested in the industry first." And hey,
Mhm.
Respect the hustle. I get that. But also, maybe it's good that we can have some forward look into models and see what they're capable of before we just unleash it on the wild. But at the end of the day, AI only works if it has access to data. We've seen this. Every model has to be trained on something. Like it's not creating out of thin air. It is trained on existing data. So, as an organization, what matters now is if you have a handle on your data, and shout out to the research report we just published where security leaders actually talked about this conundrum of AI uses my data, but how much control and operational governance do I have over the data being used by AI? Available now on the Mind website. We'll link it in the show notes. But getting control of your data as an AI model interacts with it, to me, is what matters now.
Mhm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Sam. If you look at the genesis of models is data, and the output of those models is either action or generation of data.
Right.
At the end of the day, I think what we all understand or are starting to understand more and more is that if we're not protecting data, if we're not governing data, if we're not securing data, if we don't have good compliance and regulatory control around data that applies to both humans and agents, then we're leaving ourselves open to a massive amount of risk more and more every single day. And I think the one thing that matters now is that we start seeing that as a scale. And every single day we're not doing something about it is every single day that that scale of impact potentially gets bigger and bigger and bigger when we're not addressing or securing data or keeping that at least top of mind.
The more the world changes, the more it stays the same. At the end of the day, your organization has something unique about it, which is probably data related, some IP, some process, something. The KFC secret recipe or the Coke recipe. It's data. It's secret. Keeping it safe is a very high priority to maintain whatever competitive advantage you want in the organization. So let's keep our data safe. And that's something that I think we care about here at Mind. And as we go forward from there. So, hey, Landon, let's close off like we do every single episode with what did you learn today?
I think personally, Sam, what I learned today and something that's a theme over the past week is just one, being adaptable as a person and as a world, right? I think we're moving into a world where everything's so interconnected. There's so many things that can impact us at any given time, both personally and professionally. I think really building the resilience to be an adaptable human being and being an adaptable coworker, or being an adaptable parent, or being an adaptable professional is going to matter more than ever. And I think that's very much what I'm learning today, what I'm learning this week, and something that, again, will probably stay top of mind throughout the rest of this year for me.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, as we're recording this episode, there's currently a ceasefire happening in the Middle East across many of the involved parties. And I know leaders from involved nations are traveling to continue negotiating. So our prayers and thoughts are for a safe, peaceful, and prosperous resolution to any conflict happening in our world. So, and yeah, I mean, also too, checking my own privilege of, I haven't been able to get a hold of so-and-so in our product organization because they've been literally fighting a war. So maybe a little more grace for some people who are fighting battles.
Great point.
Hey, what I've learned today is that there is no good family calendar. So maybe I'll wait for Claude Mythos to get out and use it to vibe code something that might actually work for my family. I don't know what that will look like, but I'll keep you posted on my results. I'll build in public. I'll post it on LinkedIn as we build in public the family calendar based off of whatever this new model can do.
Connected to all your data at the same time.
Exactly right. I mean, what's the worst that could possibly happen? So all that to say, Landon, thanks, man. This has been a fun conversation as always. And congrats on the new home. And I look forward to visiting it someday soon.
Thank you much.
So for Landon Brown, my name is Samuel Hill, and that's all for now.